Welcome to MTG Friends. Let's do a recap of the standard meta and let's jump in. So our top 5 have been kind of shifting around and modifying themselves over the last probably 30 days. Gruul Adventure is at the top, at least at the moment. I mean, it's a pretty good staple, but the other few that are in the top 4 or 5 are really being tooled against this. It's got, you know, the adventure stuff just won't die. It just won't die until it gets rotated out. So you got your staples, Innkeeper with the Bone Crusher, with the Love Struck Beast. And then they've been mainlining the Emberous Shield Breaker, mainly to combat the Great Henge and the Ember Cleaves, that kind of shenanigans. Interesting is now people are subbing in the Akroan War and even have it sideboarded, which is very interesting. And of course, in your sideboard, you have your Ox and stuff for the Dimir builds. So this is just a really good, efficient deck, and it's at the moment on the top. So I haven't been playing this a little bit. I tend to stick towards my mono red build, even though it's not even in the top 5. So let's move on to mono green. So mono green food is really actually very efficient. And when I was playing this, testing it out, I was surprised at first to see Witch's Oven. However, with Extinction Event in a lot of the black builds, this makes total sense because they choose odd or even for exiling whatever's on the battlefield in terms of creatures. So with like things like Feasting Troll King, you don't want this exiled. So if you have Witch's Oven out, you hit it with Witch's Oven, it gives you 2 food, and then you're likely going to be able to pull it right back out of your graveyard. So Witch's Oven actually makes a whole lot of sense in this build. You know, you got your other stuff like your Tangled Florahedron for your ramp, Gilded Goose for your ramp, and the food mechanics. Yeah, in terms of the sideboards, it's actually exactly what you'd expect, except for Ugin. That was a surprise, but it actually is very efficient against certain builds. And, you know, for your Dimir builds that are milling you to death, you got your Arachner, etc., etc., etc. So, just an overall pretty good mechanic. This one stumbles and really struggles against the Urion builds, but it does pretty good against most everything else. All right, so next on the list, at least at the moment, is the Dimir Control. Now, it is just absolutely mystifying to me that even after the companions got nerfed, that there are 2 companions, Loras of the Dream Den and Urion, in the top 5. And Urion was actually the top slot, but a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, at least as of this recording. Anyways, I digress. So Loras of the Dream Den, this is all about getting those crabs out as quickly as you can. Who would have ever thought that these crabs were going to be a thing? Oh, actually I did, but you know, you got your typical stuff here in the Dimir build. A surprise to see this mainlined in at least recently is the Of One Mind. But it makes sense because you can cast it for just 1 blue if you have a human and non-human. And if you notice, you have human rogues for a 2-drop, the Guild Enforcer for a 1-drop, but then you have the Wind Robber, which is not a human. So you could easily tease this out of One Mind turn 3, possibly. So not too bad. The other thing that has changed in this build is there's less removal. So there was a lot more Blood Chief's Thirst in there about a month ago. So we have that sideboarded in. This is more about a little bit more control. And this one is interesting. These ones were being sideboarded, the Lowell Mage's Domination, to go thief up some creatures on the other side of the table. Lowell Mage's Domination, 3 of these. Now with the deck I've modified slightly. I'm not running these in the main board. A little bit more control. All right, so this one is a really good one, but kind of tedious, kind of slow play unless you really pop off early with the Ruin Crabs and mill incredibly quickly. All right, moving on to Mirror Ramp. So this is the new iteration, at least as of the last month. Brazen Barrows got dropped in here. Instead of you trying to ramp up to Ugin, the Ugin build of Genesis Ultimatum, Now this is more about getting the Ikoria Best of the Sea out and the combo of popping the Terror of the Peaks. So it's just a different iteration. I personally like the Ugin build more. I just feel like it's a little bit more fun to play. It pops off a little more regularly. But this one is definitely pretty cool. And if you notice, it doesn't even run cultivates or nothing. It relies on the Beanstalk Giant, some control, and it's pretty cool. So on the sideboard, I thought this was interesting, is you're assuming you're not going to be running into blue a lot with this main, but if you do, you got a lot of mystical disputes, negates, etc., etc. I've actually tweaked this a little bit. I'm not running all 4 of the sea gods. I'm running a little bit more control, like I have both of these sideboarded negates in, etc., etc. So overall, a pretty cool, fun build, especially if it pops off for you with Terror of the Peaks, either on the board when you bring in other things with Ultimatum, or where you bring in Terror of the Peaks with the Ultimatum. You just got to be really careful with playing against control, that you sub in some mystical disputes and leave yourself 1 mana open so that you can pop this thing off and not get it countered. Because getting that countered sucks! All right, we'll go through one more and then kind of trail off here. Esper Doom Foretold is exactly what you'd think it is. This was actually a little higher in the meta just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, as of this recording. Like I was saying earlier, I'm just absolutely mystified that these companions, even after being nerfed, are so powerful. What was R&D thinking? But anyways, this one is all about just building around Urion, keeping the board clear with Doom Foretold. Extinction Event, like I was saying earlier, Extinction Event is the thing that you have to really work around with any of the aggro like mono red decks or mono white for that matter, which actually I've been playing mono white and having a lot of fun with that because, never take the meta too seriously. You got to have some fun now and then. You can only play the top 3, 4 of the meta so much before you go, ugh, I want something different. Want something different. Okay. I digress. Twice I've digressed in one episode. Holy shnikes. All right, this is exactly what you would think. The running 4, the Nightmares, is kind of interesting, and it makes a lot of sense for that early game. And yeah, and so the sort of the late game push, if you need it, if you haven't already completely dominated the board, is the dance of pulling out stuff out of your graveyard and just becoming 4/4 creatures. I mean, man, and then it triggers whatever it is. I mean, once dance of the Mense, I don't know, whatever, however you say it. Once you pop that thing off, if it doesn't get countered, usually it's a auto win at that point. I mean, hard to come back from that. I mean, I suppose somebody else could Extinction Event you after that fact, but they're probably not all going to be even or odd, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so so the sideboard here, and I've actually mainboard 2 of these instead of sideboarding them, which is the Archon of Sun's Grace. So that's if you need to deal with life gain, you got somebody popping off quick with an aggro deck, then you're going to definitely want the Archons in there. All right, so let's just sort of recap the rest of them. Briefly, you got another iteration of the Dimir Rogues, mill decks. Mono Red, which one of my personal favorites if you've seen my other episodes. Mono Red is just always a very good, heavy duty, hit him in the face. Typically you're going to hit it or you're not. This is a slightly different build than the one I'm doing. Oh, and in the descriptions I will put this. I happen to be grabbing this from MTG Goldfish. I'm not affiliated with them whatsoever. They just, they keep up pretty good data. Anyways, this is a different iteration. It's got Fireblade Charger. I don't run Fireblade Chargers, etc. And this mono red is exactly what you'd expect it to be. And more importantly, at least for me personally, is I've actually been running mono white, and it's been fun. I do not run this exact build, but this is the gist. Like, I don't run all 4 giant killers, although that makes total sense with the adventure mechanics going on, because Bone Crusher is a 4/3, your Love Struck Beast is a 5/5, etc., etc. So it's worth taking a shot at. I will put in my version in the description. I find it very fun. I'm not taking climbing the ladder too seriously this month, as you know, holidays and everything. Just too much going on. But that's pretty much it for the meta in terms of a recap. There's a few others that are trailing off, but these are the main ones as of right now. All right, make sure you hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hit that like button, hit alerts, etc., etc. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, I'll try to do a meta recap for Standard about once a month. But if you want more, just let me know, and I will accommodate. All right, have a good one.